So here we're being instructed about detachment. Actually, one of the words for detachment in Sanskrit is nirapetsha. And that basically means disinterested. It doesn't mean negative, it doesn't mean positive, it means just like neutral. You understand? Just neutral. If one is negative about sense gratification, because like Krishna says in the Gita, attachment and repulsion for sense objects is felt by the conditioned souls, that's just another side of attachment, like another side of the coin. You know, you have two sides of the coin, heads or tails. And so I remember when we first joined the Krishna consciousness movement, many people were negative about certain aspects of the material creation, particularly the brahmacharis. They were negative about the women. And whenever they saw a lady or a soul in a lady's body, they go, Hare Krishna! It's like they had come across a ghost or something. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Jaya Devi. So Prabhupada tells one story about that, not about brahmacharis. Actually, two stories. There were two sannyasis, and they were walking, chanting Hare Krishna on their little japa beads. And they came to a river, and what happened is when they came to a river, they wanted to cross the river. And the river wasn't so deep, so there was also a lady who wanted to cross the river. And one of the sannyasis actually helped the old lady, or young lady, whatever she was, cross the river. Confirmed by the crow. Edgar Allan Poe says, spoke the raven nevermore. A raven is a big crow. So anyway, crow was laughing at what I was saying. So anyway, so they crossed the river, and one of them helped the lady. And then what happened is they kept walking a few more kilometers. At the same time, the sannyasi who would not help the lady was grumbling. He was under his breath. He said, I don't know why this asshole did this, he's a so... so many bad things he was saying under his breath, finding fault in his godbrother. They're both disciples of Prabhupada. So, I had a few little details in the story. So anyway, and then after a few miles or kilometers, the one who hadn't helped the lady said, I have to ask you a question, Prabhu, or Maharaj. Why did you do this? Help that lady across the river. And that sannyasi said, who helped the lady? He said, actually, I carried her across the river, but you've been carrying her for several kilometers here. So who was attached, So really, that's the point. He's just neutral. Actually, someone who is Krishna conscious is neutral towards the material energy. It's not that he's negative or positive. I mean, just like sometimes devotees, they ask me to do certain things, like go to sporting games or something like that. Or they invite me to the movies. They said, Maharaj, this movie has a spiritual part to it, They're like devotees there was one movie called Airport or Air, whatever it is, and it has some devotees chanting in it. So, for 2 seconds the devotees chanting, so you got to go see the whole movie. So they asked me, anyway, so I said, no, I'm not interested. Well, what do I do there? It's boring. So, in other words, we're not interested because we're having so much fun serving Krishna. There's another story Prabhupada told in this regard, too. Once upon a time, somehow or other, there was a lady who had become a prostitute. She was a pure devotee. Somehow or other, I don't know how that happened. And there was a Brahmin living next to her. And he was just looking at her business, her customers all the time. And he was counting on his computer. He was just had a database there. He was just adding, and so the prostitute went back to Godhead, but he actually went to hell. Because he was just thinking of sense gratification his whole life. So we really have to become neutral to sense gratification, not be like the agitated brahmachari. I mean, Dwarka and I were just talking about the old days of the movement, when the sannyasis would come to the temple and try to steal the brahmacharis. particularly Radha Damodar party. They would come and they'd tell the brahmacharis, they would wait till the middle of the night till everybody was sleeping. They'd wake up the brahmacharis and say, "Wake up, Prabhu! How can you live in this temple with all these householders and women? You should travel with sannyasis like us." And the brahmacharis would say, "Yes, you're right." And so in the middle of the night, the brahmachari would leave and the temple president would wake up the next morning. And there'd be no devotees in the temple. Mangalarti would just be him, him and his wife. So, I mean, that's the way, and also another story is, like in the beginning of the movement, not just about men and women relationships, but in the beginning of the movement, Prabhupada used to keep a whole jar full of these globjamins. Everyone knows what globjamin is. It's a sugar solution, 2 parts sugar, 1 part water, diabetes pill. So Prabhupada would keep like a whole jar full of these globjamins soaked right by himself, and the devotees would freely just take whatever they wanted during the day. And one devotee who was so-called detached, he said, "I think we should restrict the devotees to only taking 1 globjamin per day." And Prabhupada said to him, "I think that we should restrict you to taking only 1 globjamin a day." And another time, there was a sannyasi. There's so many nice stories about this detachment, this negativity rather than detachment. There was a sannyasi, a godbrother of mine, his name was Panchajavita Maharaj. And Prabhupada had just told the story about Shakshi Gopal. I think you all know the story about Shakshi Gopal. This older Brahmin promised the younger Brahmin, "You could marry my daughter." And they were in pilgrimage, and the older Brahmin was from a high-class family. In India, there's so much concern with caste and classes, and there's subcaste, subclasses, but the main thing is money. That's more important than caste. That's a symptom of Kali Yuga. If you have your money, you're high class even if you're an ass. That's what Bhagavatam says. I'm just quoting Bhagavatam. So anyway, what happened is they went back to their village after the younger Brahmin helped the older Brahmana do his pilgrimage. And the older Brahmana's family naturally opposed the younger the Brahmana, marrying. So therefore, the older Brahmana had made this promise in front of a deity. And that deity, of course, later on became known as Shakshi Gopal, the witness Gopal. And then younger Brahmana had to go back and get the deity to walk all the way across India. And he brought the deity to where the village was. And Prabhupada told the story. And the couple lived happily ever after. Whatever. And when Prabhupada told the story, he said, well, both of these brahmanas were pure devotees. And this sannyasi said to Prabhupada, but if he was such a pure devotee, why did he want to get married? So he was thinking, pure devotee means doesn't want to get married. Didn't consider there were people like Bhaktivinoda Thakur and other great devotees who were married, and even ladies in our sampradaya who were gurus. I mean, you have this whole bias sometimes, because we're discussing this in the GBC, when ladies become gurus of the Krishna consciousness movement, and there's the conservatives and the liberals. It's like you have in politics, you have a conservative party and liberal party. So in the GBC we have the conservative party and liberal party. And the neutrals. So anyway, so getting back to the story, so as the sannyasi asked Prabhupada, Prabhupada, if he's such a pure devotee, why would he want to get married? Krishna walked all the way across India for him. Why didn't he just meditate on Krishna? Why does he want to get entangled in this world? And then Prabhupada turned to the sannyasi and said, because nobody would have you. You're talking like that. In other words, you're just frustrated. Your renunciation is just like frustration with the material world. So anyway, so there are many examples like that about how people get negative towards sense gratification or negative towards a particular ashram, but that's not really detachment. That shows attachment of another kind. So the question is, how do we actually become detached? In other words, how do we become real devotees? Well, amongst devotees, there's different classes of devotees.